All right, here we are in another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies.
Well, good morning,
Pete.
Bill. Good morning, Bill.
Pete. Pete.
What?
Something wrong this morning, Pete. Something wrong.
Bill, there's something wrong every day. Which one do you want to pick?
This is the last podcast of 2020. With the old, in with the new, Peter. Out with the old, in with the new.
Bill,
That's what I say.
I agree, but I think I'm a little confused because I'm looking at the calendar. What are we doing next week?
Well, next week, December 30th is on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
So this is the last podcast for 2020.
Well, Wednesday's still 2020.
Yeah, but we do the podcast on Thursday, Peter. Remember, today's Thursday.
Yeah. And then we release it on Monday.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel better now.
Merry Christmas, Desiree. Thank you very much. Episode number 233. You ready, Peter?
Oh, yeah. I'm sitting down.
I'm going out in a bang. 2020 can go to hell as far as I'm concerned. Everybody says it was the worst year ever. It was pretty good for me, other than the pandemic, which, I mean, I have some friends that got sick, but I don't really know anybody that got, terminally terminated. So I'm going to go out with a bang. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Doing weekend creative real estate deals.
Weekend.
Doing weekend creative real estate deals. In other words, you got a job? Sorry about that. But here's what you can do. If you are broke or wealthy, this podcast is going to make a lot of sense to you. In fact, if you are broke, you may actually have an advantage because you have a choice to learn before leaping into deals. Those who usually have money tend to leap before they learn, then find the most unlikely places to blame their failures, like economy, their spouse, the seller, the buyer, the lawyer, etc. Everyone but themselves. And I'm not talking about getting a Harvard or Yale education that takes years to get. I am talking about you having some good, solid fundamentals before leaping. Doing a few no money, no risk deals, get the practice, then move up the ladder once you have some experience. And today, I'm going to show you how to do these type of deals and where your money is. In fact, I think it is smart to do quick and easy deals to generate cash now, then slowly work on using that cash for education and creating other deals to produce steady cash flow to cover living expenses and actually, for real, firing that boss. Even if it's you.
I was just going to say, I want to fire me so bad, I can't tell you. I'm partly fired. Fire myself.
So just some housework that we have to do here because this is what the tech beagles tell us that we got to do. Realize that in the description of wherever you found this podcast, there's a link in there. And when you click on that link, it'll send you to our free page. And there's 24, 25 documents. There's scripts. There is, good morning, John. There are scripts. There are checklists. There are videos. There are all kinds of stuff there. Stuff that definitely could get you started without having to put on any dough. So go check that out. It's in the description of this podcast, wherever you're seeing it. Also, we broadcast every Thursday morning, Eastern Standard Time, somewhere around 9:30, depending on if these two old guys could get their technical crap together and what time. We start at 9, just in case you guys are curious. We start at 9 o'clock. It usually takes us 20 or 25 minutes to get everything put together because that's the way we are. That's how we roll, right, Pete?
Hey, I got a lot of things to plug in and unplug when I walk in the house.
It takes Emma 5 minutes. It takes us 25 minutes. But, oh, well. So Yeah, so 9:30 thereabouts every Thursday morning Eastern Standard Time. And what happens is we do broadcast or live stream on Facebook and on YouTube. We do Twitter too, but I'm not sure how that works, so I don't talk about it much. But you can actually go on YouTube or you can actually go on Facebook. And if you put in the comment section any questions or any comments, like when I'm talking to Desiree and John and whoever else is on there, I have a big screen in front of me and I can see all that. So if you have questions, you can ask them at that point. Or if you have personal questions, you can go to flippinghousesforrookies.com. Top right-hand side, there is a button there that says support. Last thing is, please subscribe to the channel that you're catching us on, you know, whether it's YouTube or iTunes or Stitcher or any Google Play or wherever you're finding us, iHeartRadio, any of those. Just go ahead and subscribe to us, and please leave us a comment so that we can see what's going on. I have software that scours the internet and finds all these good and bad comments that I get, and it delivers them right to my desk as if it was my personal assistant. So please put them there. Whew. We made it through another one of those gibberish moments now, didn't we, Peter?
Now we can get on to business.
Here we go. You ready?
Yeah.
What if you could do real estate investing like it was a part-time job?
Well, we're always told that it's supposed to be.
Well, it has been for me because I definitely run my other businesses and I don't put more than 15 or 20 hours in my real estate business. Unless I've got 3 or 4 closings and I'm bringing in a shit ton of money, then I might have to pay attention. But I do most of mine totally part-time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? See, this is not part of my script, but see, what you got to realize is what you need to do in real estate. The most important thing you need to do in real estate is make decisions. Everything else could pretty much be outsourced. So I'm talking about just working on weekends or when you have spare hours, because some people work weekends and have days off during the week. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of folks talk about this, but do they actually give you the strategy or sequence to do this for free on a podcast?
On a Thursday morning.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Today's Christmas Eve, too, by the way.
Yeah, and we're working here. Hey, look at my sweater. Look at my sweater. Come on. Give me some comments on that.
Pete got an invitation, guys, if you're looking. Desiree, I want you to kick in here and tell us. Pete got an invitation that today was Ugly Sweater Day.
Hey, wait till I tell you who gave me this.
Yeah, probably me. Probably me and my wife.
Something like that.
I probably paid for it. My wife gave it to you.
You're close.
I already had words with her this morning. So I got her started on the weekend. So there you go.
Where's your Christmas spirit, Mr. Hawthorne?
Oh, it's there. It just needs to be a little bit more organized. I know a lot of folks. Desiree's killing me. Did Emma say it was nice? All right. So here's my observation. Enough goofing around. Here's my observation. Okay.
Yeah.
These others that claim to be gurus, as I put in my emails, GOOOROOO apostrophe S, gurus. I stole that from Ben Settle. So Ben, thank you very much for that. As always, you've given me another powerful idea. Okay. My observation is this, Peter. Okay. The strategies are usually out sequence. And when I had my coach read this language, he said, Bill, isn't it out of sequence? I'm like, no, it's out sequence. Mm-hmm. It's blatantly not correct. Right? Or it's really out gradient for most that do real estate investing. So now let's just clear these up. I'm not going to go off onto this profound thing because I got a lot of things to cover today. Out gradient or gradient, an actual gradient means a gradual increase or decrease in something that can be measured. Okay. So that means if you're on step number 1, when you go to step number 2, you're a little bit closer to the top of the stairs and you increased your potential of getting there. And it's measurable.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't measure it, what's the sense in talking about it?
Yeah.
Right. So it's like a statistic. You can measure it now against what it was before.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Which means to me, if you have a sequence that grows or decreases, you can manage what you measure. So the sequence is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? And the gradient is as you increase or decrease each step. Is that clear?
I think so. So these are steps that are closing you to completing a project or getting something done, like buying a house, selling a house, the steps, or setting up your business.
I get it. So this has nothing to do with other than understanding that this is any process. It's not necessarily our process, that there is a sequence or a flow, a natural flow that things will take, right? So that's the sequence. So it's like step 1, step 2, step 3. So that's a sequence. That's different than a gradient, because the gradient will be, I did step 1 and it automatically elevated me into step 2. And when I did step 2, it automatically elevated me into step 3. Okay, so if you do the gradient correctly, it'll automatically push you into the next set of sequence. Okay, so they're intertwined, but what I'm saying is most violate that sequence and gradient when they're trying to do real estate. Right? So that's what I'm saying is, which means to me, if you have a sequence that grows or decreases, you can manage what you measure. Right? So if you don't know what the sequence is, or you don't know that you have accomplished a gradient because you're not measuring it, right? Then it's hard to say. So let me give you an example. We talked about a couple podcasts ago, I think 232 or 231, where you have to have, where you should talk to 200 people a month. And I did that whole thing, right? So if your first step is to find 200 people and you don't do that, how are you going to talk to them? Right. So that's out sequence or out gradient. Because it didn't happen. It was like skipped. The step was skipped. So my point in today, and being this philosophical manner that I am being here without even trying to be, is that just realize that's in the background. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to give you a nice, simple, and layman's language, and not all this technical Bill Hawthorne crap. Okay, I'm just going to lay out what you could do if you have time on the weekends to actually get some deals done. But realize that if you don't do some of these things, or you alter them or try to do them in a different way, well, your results might be what you have now. And if you have something now that you like, then keep doing it. If you don't, then I would strongly suggest you listen to this podcast a few times and write it down. Yeah?
Yep, makes sense.
All right, enough of that. What I wanted to do today is work on the Weekend Warrior plan for building some chunks of cash, and then gradually, get my paper here, build up more consistent income so you can fire your boss, even if it's you. Okay. So here's the fundamental you need to use as a staple to do this. It is possible to do a rent to own with a property owner, then sublease those rights to a potential buyer that will cover all the commitments you made the seller. So can you tell me what I just said, Peter?
Sure. You can do like you do a rent to own from a seller, and then you pass on the arrangements, all the promises, the commitments to some other buyer who will take over what you promised. Like you said, you'll do this, that, and the other. He's doing it, taking care of things, paying the bills, whatever that is. So eventually he can move in, usually.
Right. So here's the thing. Almost, and notice I say almost, because there is a chance that somebody will say, I didn't do that, but I think pretty damn close to 100% of the people listening to us now have at one point in their life rented an apartment. When they first started out, minimally went somewhere and rented an apartment or a house or a room or something. Okay? Okay, good. Can we establish that?
Sure.
Yes. Okay, good. AKA, you have experience.
Yeah, that's funny.
Why do you need to go like listen to 100 podcasts and do all these things, which I'm going to cover at the end of the podcast? I'm going to tell you exactly the reason why based on my observation. But here's the point. You have experience. Just go do that. Now, will you be me or will you be you or any other guru you listen to? Of course not. But you will get started. And this is the gradient scale I'm talking about. You do a lease option. You don't do a renovation. You don't do a retail rehab. You don't do a subject to deal. You don't do any of that kind of stuff until you get ready to do that. Just get a couple deals under your belt and practice. Observe how sellers respond and how buyers respond, and just get used to the sequence 1 through 10, like I talk about, and how hard each gradient is going to be as you go along. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
You
made a face. No, you made a face. So I just want to make sure that I didn't say something that was too confusing.
Well, my face just does that.
It makes facial expressions.
Yeah, I know. I have to.
Pete, we got to get you on improv. That'll be fun. All right. So let's take a look at the details. Okay.
Yep.
1, you go into Flakebook Marketplace.
Yep.
Okay. Everybody's on Flakebook, so you can go there too. Okay. Don't try to put your opinions in there because they may not show it and they might ban you, but you could go on Flakebook Marketplace. Okay. 2, you go under the rent section in your farm area, meaning whatever area you want to do business in. It's usually your backyard, so you could go do touchy-feely, but some people are from out of state and out of country and stuff like that, and they might do it differently, but that's another story. If you want to know how to do real estate out of your area or out of state, go to flippinghousesforrookies.com/RE. I lost my train of thought. RE. Hang on a second. I got to pull it up. I think RE virtual is, I think, what it is. Yeah, RE virtual.
Okay.
And there's a 42-minute video there, and it's free, and I show you what to do. Not only that, but there's a stupid offer there to buy all my paperwork for $37. You don't have to do that to watch the video. You can just watch the video. So if you want to do deals outside of your area, go to flippinghousesforrookies.re virtual, and you can do that. In the meantime, you're going to go to the rent section in the area that you're in. Right?
Yeah.
And you're going to set it in Flakebook, and you're going to get a whole bunch of rental properties. This is Flakebook Marketplace. Okay. What's the matter?
You know, it's funny. There's a lot of people complain about Facebook, and my kids, some of them they don't even use it anymore. Like, they just won't go near it. But wouldn't it be just the perfect way to get back at Facebook, to just use it to do something good for yourself, and the heck with all the crazy noise, but just take advantage of what it can do, put some money in your pocket, and help some people.
That's what we're doing.
It'd be like thumbing your nose to it. Like, you want to be stupid, go ahead. But at least we can use Facebook to do something good for ourselves, right?
Facebook is the new Craigslist. Craigslist has too many robots, too many scams, too many things. Craigslist, I don't know why they're allowing it, but anyway, so once you find a house that you think you're interested in, right? Which, by the way, when I do this, I don't even look at the houses. If they're there, I send them a message. I could give a flying crap about the house or the apartment. I'm not there yet. It's out sequence to do that. That's not the portion of the deal that I'm in. Right now, I'm trying to do step number 1, find a seller. That's it.
Yeah. Right? See, what you said, you got to say that again. You're not looking for a house. You're looking for a seller willing to do what you're proposing. The house can't do any of that. It doesn't matter the house, good, bad, or indifferent. If somebody will live in it, somebody will live in it. What do you care? You're not living in it. It's the seller you're looking at. Boy, that
Yep.
got really clear for me just putting it that way, if I say so
Nice.
myself.
Well, perfect on the clarity there, Mr.
Yeah.
Pita. Huh?
Mm.
All right, good. So once you find them, you're going to send a message to them, right? On Facebook Messenger.
Mhm.
Here's what the message is going to say. Would you be willing to rent for a year or two, and then in parentheses, without the landlord obligations, then sell it to me? Question mark.
Mm.
So would you be willing to rent for a year or two without landlord obligations, then sell it to me? Okay.
Mm.
Once they respond favorably, get the address, phone number, and get on the phone and talk to them. Because Flakebook is protecting people from privacy, okay? Because Mr. Zuckerberg is afraid of his own shadow, and God forbid somebody would confront him and talk to him like a human being.
He does look
Yeah.
look terrified, doesn't he? When you look at pictures, he looks
Yeah.
terrified.
Yep. And he doesn't want people to find him. I guess when you have transgressions, you want to hide. Okay. So now we know how Bill feels about Mr. Zuckerberg. Okay. My opinion in there. You may not have to agree, but there you go. They don't, the bottom line is they're not going to allow you can't on Facebook get within a 10-mile radius of any address or anybody that's close, because they don't want stalkers and all these kind of other things. Okay. So the address of the property and the phone number and email, contact information of the seller is not going to be there, right? So John, just to prove the point, John says, I had someone from Flakebook message me because I post in the groups I buy houses. It's a cash deal, but I would not pass it up. We plan to close today. She contacted me on Monday. Go,
Wow.
John.
Nice
going. Woo! And John is here almost every week. Okay. As far as I know, I mean, I haven't looked him up in my system. It's not like John bought all my stuff and did all these seminars and all that. He's here every week. So go, John. Well done. I'm going to read that again. I have someone from Flakebook message me because I posted in the groups I buy houses. It's a cash deal, but I would not pass it up. We plan to close today. She contacted me on Monday.
Now there's a nice little Christmas present, huh?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I live for.
Nice, John.
Good job, John. Now, once we contact someone and we start, now you don't try to get their information like right after you send them the text, would you rent to me for a year or two and, without landlord obligations, right? You don't right away start like asking for their phone number and stuff like that. Unless you feel the conversation is going that way. You might ask them, just some questions. You can go to flippinghousesforrookies.com/free stuff, download the FSBO for sale by owner script, and you could use some of those questions to text back and forth to kind of warm them up. And then once you feel like that they have a little bit of motivation, then you can at that point get on the phone with them, ask them where the property is and get on the phone with them. Okay. Now comes the really, really cool part. Don't worry about knowing a stitch of real estate. Just go out to the property, look at it as if you were going to put your own kids in it, or like it was your first apartment when you were in college, or you're going to put, your mother in it or anything like that. Just look at it as if you were going to rent it. Okay. Now, some people have higher standards than others. Some people feel like apartments should be like the Taj Mahal. I'm just talking about common sense stuff. Is it in a good section of town or a decent section of town? Are there other renters around there? Will others be interested? You'd be surprised at how many people will rent any portion, because there are such things as slums and, what do they call them? The top floor
penthouses.
Oh, penthouses. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So there's everything in between. So you're not there to measure it up to your standards. You're just there to make sure that this is a marketable apartment or a marketable house or a marketable whatever condo, right?
Well, you made a good point. One of a few words you said, let's focus on that. Do other people live there?
Right.
You know, you look up and down the street, you look up and down the halls. What's the occupancy? If people are living there, people are living there. Now, if you really hate it, don't do it.
Right.
But if people are living there and they're paying
Well,
money,
trust your gut feeling. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like that story I told you one time. I was out with my wife and we were going somewhere to dinner or something, and I wanted to swing by a piece of property that I was putting an offer on. It was like around the corner, so we went there.
Yeah.
And she's like, "What are you buying in this neighborhood for?" You know, because her basic philosophy is buy the ugliest house in the prettiest neighborhood. That's her extent of real estate knowledge. I'm not picking on her, but that's what she tells me all the time, right? And I finally pulled over the car on the side of the road. I said, "Look around." Just to your point, look around. What am I looking at? Are there any boarded up windows and boarded up houses? Are there a bunch of cars here? Are there people everywhere? Are lights on? Are people living here? She goes, yeah. Then why wouldn't I do business here? If these people are living here, other people will come here too. You know, maybe it's not your standard of living. Maybe you wouldn't live here, but you're not my person. You're not the person that I'm looking to sell to. So you don't matter, you know?
Yeah, you have to separate your personal interest and taste from the business aspect of it.
Yeah.
You know, I have a condo that's really nice. I probably would live there. And we have a 3-family that I wouldn't want to live there, but everybody's pretty nice there and they pay the bills. And I don't know if people realize this, but if you buy a very expensive something or other, a lot of times doesn't make a lot of money because it's very expensive. Yeah. Some of the worst neighborhoods, things are cheapish and you make more money, because it's a little riskier, it's a little more annoying. So you have to find your balance in there, not too high, not too low.
My entire attention and passion for 2021 is to buy and or control $50,000-$60,000 houses in the middle of the country. I got the big finger up to Connecticut with their $300 to $1 million properties. That's what I got. I want my portfolio to be infected and infested with $50,000, $60,000, $80,000 properties I could sell for $125,000 to $150,000 in the middle of the country. In the middle of the country, that's where I have so much passion for that I've actually, that I hired VAs and I took on a partner, one of my students, one of my coaching clients, which I've done in the past and swore I would never do it again. But I like this guy. He's a military guy, and I just got a feeling, and I'm just going to go with it. And we're going to go slow until I know he's ready. He's from Connecticut, so I can take him on appointments with me. And I just want to. This is like, to me, like the California rush. I'm going to throw all my shit in the buggy, load the horses with the grain, pack my guns, right? And I'm going out west. I don't know how I'm going there. Yeah, exactly.
Giddy up.
Giddy up. That's right. That's right. And off I go. To the wild blue yonder. That's where Bill's going. And by the way, I made a very loud announcement last Christmas that I was going to start taking on partners around the country. Yeah. And I'm still working on that. And I have done that. I've got a few partners here and there. But due to some software and some assistant type glitches, I haven't fully fulfilled that. So I expect to have boots on the ground around the country. So there's a lot of opportunity there as far as I'm concerned. And I'm closer now than I ever was. So John says that there's different levels of life that provide everybody. So that's a good way to put it. All right, let's move on. So once you go out to the property, you're going to look at it and you're going to do this sort of observation. You're going to listen to your seller and hear some of the things they say. And this is part of the sequence now. Okay. I want to make sure we get this as part of the sequence. As long as you're satisfied with the house or the condo or whatever it is that you're looking at, as if you were renting an apartment. It's no different than that, even though it's a house, right? Here is the path you're going to want to take eventually. and I don't say you do this in the first visit, and I'm going to talk about this at the end of the podcast. You're going to want to eventually, to do a deal, you have to do this, but you're going to want to keep this in mind. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to settle on a price. Okay.
Sure.
You're going to have to settle on monthly payments.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're going to have to settle on the time that the seller is going to give you to pay them off. And I don't do anything less than 2 years. I prefer 3, 5, 7. Okay. And then if they bring up deposit money, you talk about that. And I'm going to talk about that shortly too. I always say don't give a deposit, but I realized when I was writing this podcast, that's not 100% true. I'm going to show you how to work that around so you don't have to worry about it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because some people do want a deposit.
Yeah.
So the pattern that you're going to want to deal with when you're in the house is make sure that the house is functionable. It's like got a furnace and, like there's running water and, there's electricity and it's not 2x4s without sheetrock. It's livable. Okay. And it's a place that somebody would want to rent. Okay. Once you do that, you're going to want to check to make sure you're going to want to know these 4 things. To do any deal, you're going to need to know the price. You're going to need to know how much they're willing to take for a monthly payment. Obviously, the least amount they'll take for a monthly payment. And that doesn't even matter in the beginning. And then how long they'll let you go before you have to pay it off or your buyer has to pay it off. And then if they bring up any kind of issues like, like they want a security deposit or they want a deposit, then you take that up. Okay. So let's say the seller wants $100,000, right? And they're asking $1,100 for lunch, $1,100 for rent. Can you tell I'm hungry?
Well, yeah. There's just that for her.
Yeah. So they want $100,000 to sell this place. Let's say it's a condo, right? $100,000, and they want $1,100 a month. That's what all the taxes, insurance, and all that stuff and paid. And then they'll give you 3 years to pay it off, up to 3 years.
Yep.
Right. And they want 1 month security.
Okay.
So they want $1,100. So that you're going to need to give them $2,200 to start. Okay. Now, all you have to do is find a buyer that is willing to give you, let's say, $105,000.
Yeah.
Okay. $1,100 a month for the rent. Right. And we'll sign a 3-year commitment of paying the $1,100. Right. And have $5,000 for a down payment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now here's the magic. You write a lease that stays between the buyer and the seller. And it says that the buyer does the maintenance, repairs, snow removal, cuts the grass, any of that stuff if it's not a condo. Right?
Yeah.
So the buyer, and this is a huge mistake that 100% of every person that I talk to, especially my coaching clients, my private coaching clients, always make.
Really? 100%? What is it?
100%. The market value of the rent is... I looked up the market value of the rent. The rent has a market value. I freaking hate that. They're buying a house. They're not renting. They're buying a house. So when your buyer comes along and gives you a $5,000 deposit and they're paying $1,100 a month, it doesn't matter that the market rent is $900 a month.
Mm-hmm.
What they're doing is you're going to give them a number that's based on how much the mortgage is going to be. So if they were to go get a $100,000 mortgage and pay taxes and pay insurance, how much is that going to be? Because technically, even though we say we're leasing to them, all we're doing is allowing them to use the property until they get qualified for a mortgage. So we want to make sure that we get enough deposit money that they have the down payment amount for the mortgage. So I use 3 to 5% because most people go HFA.
FHA.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I totally got FHA mortgages. So most people use FHA mortgages. Sorry about that. And FHA requires 3 to 5% down. So that's what you get, 3 to 5% down, because you don't want to have to worry about fixing their credit and all their issues and collecting the money too. You get the money up front.
Yeah, you get that step out of the way because they're going to have to, the bank wants to see they have that down because they're not going to lend them 100% of the money. They want to lend them whatever that percentage is, 95, whatever. And you already have the deposit in there. So they're one step ahead.
And people get confused with that too, because they're like, well, do they have to put another deposit down when they write the purchase and sales contract in 2 or 3 years from now? No. What you do is you write a purchase and sales contract saying that they paid $105,000 and they gave $5,000, they owe $100.
Mm-hmm.
And you take a photocopy of the $5,000 check and you submit it to the bank, and the bank knows that they paid it.
Mm.
The bank doesn't care that it was paid 2 years earlier. They just want to know that it was paid and that the balance is only really $100,000, because they don't want to get into a deal and then have to kick up another $5,000 because you lied about your deposit.
Oh, no, can't do that.
At the end of the day, what the bank is trying to do is they're trying to fulfill the seller with the asking price. So if you're asking $105,000, the bank wants to balance where all the money's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So they know they're putting in money, they know you're putting in money, and they want to make sure it's balanced.
Right.
So if they know that you already paid the $5,000 and it was 2 years earlier, it doesn't matter. Okay. So anyway, that's just a little technical thing there. Okay.
Sure.
So you write the lease that says, number one, you write the lease that says the buyer does the maintenance and the repairs, snow removal, grass, everything. Then you assign the option agreement that your seller gave you that says that you're going to pay $100,000 in 3 years. That's the option agreement. And you gave them a $100 deposit to do that. You assign that agreement to your buyer. And number three, the buyer gives you a $5,000 deposit, which means you still owe the seller $100,000. So if I got an option agreement that I gave my seller a $100 deposit for, it says that I owe them $100,000 within a 3-year period.
Right.
I find a buyer that's willing to pay $105,000, right? I assign that document to my buyer for $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
So did I buy and sell a piece of property, or did I really buy and sell a piece of paper that controlled that property?
Yeah, you never owned it.
So
you owned a piece of paper.
There's no risk. The only risk is the $100.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is much harder to explain than actually do the deal, because once you get it, it's like really simple. You keep the $5,000 for finding the buyer and doing the paperwork. So the $5,000 you're going to get as the investor means that you found the seller, you found the buyer, you did matchmaking, you put the two of them together so they can, do lovey-dovey stuff, right? And then you did the paperwork. You drafted the lease between your seller and your buyer, and you did an option agreement between your seller and you, and then assigned it to your buyer.
Right. Question?
Mm-hmm.
Is there paperwork that says $105,000 that can be presented to the bank? Where's that? How's that? Where's that one? Is that between? Yeah. How's that happen?
Well, it's in the option agreement, the assignment, number one, but you could write a purchase and sales contract between your seller and your buyer that is done the correct way.
Mm-hmm.
And just tell them to execute that purchase and sales agreement when they get ready to close.
Right. That way they have something that says 105. So the bank says, yeah, it's 105. But the original seller gets 100. The investor gets the 5.
Who's getting 100,000?
The original seller.
Okay, so isn't it advantageous to them, or isn't it preferable to them that they know what to do so they can get their $100,000?
Yeah.
So that's why you're going to indoctrinate them on, you got to do this, either write the purchase and sales agreement this way, or I did one for you and just didn't date it and say, here you go, just use this when it's time.
Right.
Okay. But that's all you're going to do. This is not hard. I have videos on this in my coaching portals. I have videos on this. If you buy the How to Buy Real Estate Without a Loan course, all this stuff is in there. Not only is the paperwork in there, the documents in there, but I also have videos on showing you how to fill out these documents. Okay, so it's step by step. I actually had the video, the video with the document in front of you, and the link right below the video to download it. So you download it, put it on your desk, you push the play button, and you go step by step. I go step by step with you through the document and tell you what blanks to fill out and what to do. So when you're all done with that 20-minute video, you know how to fill out those documents.
Yeah.
Okay. That's in, if you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com, top right hand side, it says courses, go there. It's the green one that says how to buy real estate without a loan. Okay. By the way, if you find a buyer on Flakebook, okay, or I should say you find buyers on Flakebook by just posting an ad that says house for sale, no bank qualifying. And you will get enough buyers because people will be listening to us and say, okay, so I got this property. What do I do with it then? I promise you, if you just go on Facebook and just post an ad, a picture of the house, right, or the condo or whatever it is, and just put the heading house for sale or condo for sale, whatever it is, no bank qualifying in capital letters, you will get responses. You will get people that want to know what this is all about.
Yeah. How do you buy a house without a bank? What's that all about?
Yeah.
Yeah. That gets people's attention. We've seen it. Like, you wait a minute. You mean I can buy this house? Like, we like rent it now and then buy it later, but it's my house now, and then I'm renting, but then I'm buying. I can really do that? They look at each other, right? The husband and wife, they just look at each other and they say, what do I sign? They really don't know about this a lot of times.
Yep.
And it's like, I don't know, it's like a golden goose for them.
Totally. All right. So you can Google lease option paperwork and find some. They're not as good as the ones that I use. They probably aren't going to cover the maintenance and the repair aspect as well as mine do. I mean, my documents cost me $3,500. So
from your lawyer to prepare for you.
Well, by the time I bought I bought a template, and then I paid, actually it's probably more than that. I paid $3,500 just for the template. And then I had my lawyer eventually work on them and tweak them. And over the years of having good tenants and bad tenants and, having things happen with tenants, I added and subtracted things.
Yeah.
So the documents are pretty tight, right? So all I'm saying is that you could Google these documents, lease with an option agreement. I think eForms or iForms or something like that has them. Okay. And Desiree, she's a nut. I got to put this up there just because she's a nut. She said, if you don't have the $100, get out of my life. Get out of Bill's life. Anyway, so you could go Google these documents and at least do a couple of deals to pick up. The least amount of money that you should ever take for one of these deals is $3,000. It's common to be between $5,000 and $10,000, depending on the price range of the houses. Like I said, it's going to be 3 to 5% on any house. So if you're selling a $100,000 house, it's $3,000 to $5,000, right? If you're selling a $200,000 house, it's $6,000 to $10,000.
Right.
You only need one of those deals to actually make some dough. And you could do this within 30 days if you just do what I'm telling you to do here. Okay. So you could Google these documents and at least get a couple deals under your belt so you can get that first $3,000 or $5,000 check. And then you can afford to buy my documents or somebody else's documents. You can afford to get some coaching or some help because your business will fund it. Right? Oh yeah. By the way, Pete, there's nothing better than repeat, rinse and repeat. Hey, once you do one, you could do it again.
Yeah.
I cut you off. What was that?
You said repeat. Oop, hang on. I pulled my headphones out. Yeah, you said repeat. No, it's true though. You've noticed that when of all the different deals people do, anything that they do, whatever it is, however they fall into it, hard, easy, impossible, a renovation, anything that they manage to pull off, that's their wheelhouse. That's what they learn how to do. And they'll want to do it again because at least they know how to do one.
The first deal you usually do is the one that you become good at.
Yeah.
Usually.
And you can add another one later, and then something else comes along. But you might feel uncomfortable with the new one because you haven't done it. But you learn. That's how you learn, one thing at a time.
That's right. All right, Pete, let's be the devil's advocate because I make this sound easy.
Okay.
And it is, but let's be the devil's advocate, okay?
Yeah.
Here's the trick. And here is why it does not work. It's the only reason why this does not work. There is no other reason. If you're telling yourself something else other than this, you're bullshitting yourself. Okay? You're playing mind games with yourself because this is the only reason why this does not work. There's only one.
What is it?
The trick is that 90% of all newbies miss is this. 95% or more of the people you talk to will say no to rent to own. They don't want to rent. That's why we go in flakebook in the rent section instead of the for sale by owner section in the beginning, because in the rent section, at least they're willing and they're in their mind, they're accepting taking monthly payments. And then when you, because they've advertised that $1,500 a month or $1,100 a month or $900 a month, right? They've already accepted that. What they didn't think of is, I can get $1,100 a month and then sell it. I didn't think of that. So half the work is done already just by going in the right pool.
Yep.
Right? I mean, if I wanted to go duck hunting, okay, which, by the way, I purposely bring up duck hunting because my sister's here, and my sister is best friends with Jess, who was my godfather's granddaughter. So we've been going through pictures of the guy that I mean, he's not my real dad. He raised me, and he's been dead for some years, and God, I miss that guy. And we used to go duck hunting. Anyways, so if you want to go duck hunting, are you going to go out in the desert in the middle of Arizona and look for ducks?
I don't think they got desert ducks, Bill.
Okay. Now, we have swamp duck. I mean, dump ducks. Dump ducks. That's a seagull, by the way. A dump duck is a seagull. Okay. You don't want those.
You wouldn't want to eat what they've been eating, that's for sure.
So if you're going to go duck hunting, doesn't it make sense you go where the ducks are?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we're going to want to go look for rent to owns, doesn't it make sense that we don't go to the desert in California or, Arizona and look for deals like looking for ducks in the desert? So it does make sense that if we're going to go duck hunting, we would go to where the ducks are. So if we're going to try to do rent to own deals, it makes sense that we go to where people are trying to rent property.
Yep.
It's not hard. But it's kind of too simple that some people overlook that part.
Okay? Well, sometimes we talk about doing marketing and putting ads and hanging up signs and all that stuff. But there's already people saying, I'm hungry.
Right.
I'm hungry.
Yeah. But I don't want to divert on what you said. You're 100% correct. But that's because I'm willing to do a subject to deal. I'm willing to do a rehab deal. I'm willing to do owner finance deal. I'm willing to do land contracts and wraparound mortgages and land, all that stuff. I'm willing to do all that. So my philosophy is give me an opportunity to talk to a seller, and I'll figure out which one of those offers I can make that's most beneficial to them and me. But I'm also a 100% professional dealologist. I study the deal while I'm doing it, and I know how to structure the deal. And to me, it's as easy as smoking a cigar or taking a leak. It's just natural.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why is because the stuff I'm telling you to do today was how I did it. I started off with something easy and got some experience under my belt. And then I tried something a little bit more challenging and got that under my belt. And then I tried something a little bit more challenging and I got that under my belt until eventually I did all these deals multiple times. I did not get the way I am by some injection or by studying. It was what I studied was the sellers. What I studied was the deals as they were being thrown at me from the sellers. That's what I studied. I didn't study all that other stuff. And I'm going to cover that because I have an amazing observation at the end of this that will bring all this whole podcast together. and I don't want to let it out until the end of the podcast. So with that said, let's move on. Fair enough?
Sure.
Okay. So the fundamental that you have to know is that 95% of all leads will say no. They will be suspects. The fundamental lesson here is prospects. Prospects, in other words, motivated sellers or partial motivated sellers that are willing to listen to you, are found in the C, the big C of suspects. Right? So the only way to be successful as a weekend creative real estate investor is to, 1, outflow a lot. Send messages until your fingers have blisters, right? I'm talking about 50 to 75 a weekend minimally to start off with. Now, I'm just talking about sending messenger messages. I'm not talking about talking to people. I'm just talking about outflowing. Get out there, get your numbers up. That'll bring you to 2, which is this will get you used to talking to sellers. The gradient after confronting talking to sellers or talking to strangers is learning to weed out the prospect from the sea of suspects. That's one of the things that you are going to have to learn. So why not learn? Like with you, it was a big mistake that I told you to do this. It was a huge mistake in your education process, but we learned a lot from it. I said to you, Peter, go practice with for sale by owners on the phone. And and then this way here, you got to be willing to just waste them. Just get rid of them. Like they were not a deal anyways, but I'm glad I talked to them because I got used to talking to people.
Yeah. So
fortunately, because at the time that's how I believe, but fortunately for me, we found out that for sale by owners was actually a better pool of people to talk to.
That was just practicing.
At the time I didn't know that. And you actually started getting some houses to be in. So if you think about it, this system that I'm talking about is how you started. And by me coaching you along with that, realized I had to scan back, and this is what I'm teaching people to do right now. You went out and we talked to the person and you observed what the seller did and how to make offers, and you got used to the seller.
Yep.
Okay. So if we're going to go duck hunting, wouldn't it make sense that we would understand the characteristics, the habits, and the way the ducks fly and where they fly to and why they're flying there, when they're hungry, when they're not hungry? Wouldn't it make sense if we knew all of this? It would be a lot easier to go duck hunting.
Sure. You have to know what you're working with.
Right. So all you need to do for that is go sit in the marsh and watch the ducks. Spend a few days observing the ducks. Okay? It's not that hard. You don't need a bunch of videos or Yale education, Harvard education. You don't need to go learn from other people. I'm going to tell you why in a couple minutes, why that's out sequence and why it's not working for you. And when you hear me say that at the end of this podcast, you're going to be blown away because there's a reason for it.
Wow.
Okay? So back to where I'm supposed to be. So you want to outflow a lot, right? Send messages until your fingers have blisters on them, right? I'm talking about 50 to 75 a weekend should be a goal. Okay.
And it doesn't take a long time. You're just talking about sending a text message.
Yeah.
Either nothing comes back, but because one of the important things, it's a soul killer to think you have a prospect, a hot one, and he's not, and you spend an hour, an hour and a half, or a half an hour, or just you think he is. If it's 2 minutes, and then they say no, it breaks your heart a little bit. So you have to be willing to figure. If just ask the right questions and figure he's not interested. That's fine. Let it go. How many girls did you have to ask to get to the prom? 2 or 3, but just let it go. Don't waste your time. That's what'll kill your soul. If you just say he's no good, move on. You'll find that guy. I have, and they're really amazing because they'll say yes.
To your point, when I was training salespeople back in my day, if you thought you had a deal, which is what we call mind deals, because you thought it, but the prospect didn't think you had a deal, it clutters your mind up and it stops you from going and finding more deals because you think you have deals to work on already.
Right.
So if you just get rid of the suspect, or be a reluctant buyer, as we talk about, and make the suspect prove to you that you should do business with him correctly, you won't clutter your mind up, and you'll be telling yourself the truth, and you'll be out looking for prospects because you don't think you have a deal and you can't do this deal. You won't get overwhelmed.
Yep.
Okay. Then once you feel good, right? Let me back up. So this will get you used to talking to sellers. The gradient after confronting talking to sellers is learning to weed out the prospects from the sea of suspects.
Yep.
Then, once you feel good and start to master the weed out part, you will start to hone in on how to locate and focus on what is the thrusting, pushing piece in the deal that's keeping the seller moving towards a transaction.
Like what's motivating them?
Yeah. Okay, so let me back up for a second, because this is important, because you're going to make these mistakes. Go do it and get it over with. Here's what happens, Peter. You know, the best phone guys, the best guys that handles prospects and suspects are the ones that go make the visit. Now, and I know this happened to you. I remember the day. I don't remember the address, but I remember when this happened to you. It's like you're telling me you got this prospect, and you, me, and I think it was Dave Boldick or somebody else was going to meet us at the house. Maybe it was Naomi.
Yeah.
And you arranged all three of us to meet this seller, and it was getting everybody scheduled together, and you worked on this for a couple days.
Yep.
We show up at the house, and we were there 5 minutes. And the guy's like, no way I would do a terms deal. We never talked about that. And we left 7 minutes later. Okay. So what that did is it taught a lesson. And this happened to me too. This happens to everybody, right?
Yeah.
So what it does is it teaches you a lesson on how to get the things that you need before you go through the aggravation of going to the house. One of the things that every newbie has to go through in their own mind is they got to flip the part in their mind that they're begging for a house, and that they put the seller on a pedestal, and the only thing that the seller could do is look down on them when they're on a pedestal.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what Ben Settle says. So thank you, Ben, for that statement. But the point is that they put you up on it. They put them up on a pedestal, and they look down on you. Okay. You want to stop that. They are fortunate to have you in their house to help them. They're very fortunate, because you'll pay more money and be more flexible with solutions to help them with their problems. The realtor only has one solution. I'll get you all the cash. Some people don't even want money when they sell a house, because they got to pay capital gains and they have all these other problems when they get it. Some people don't want money. And you were the one that brought that up many podcasts ago, right?
Yeah.
A lot of sellers, a lot of people think that sellers have a property that's an asset. Everybody thinks that real estate's an asset, and sometimes it's a liability. Sometimes they have a property that they inherited, or they got, or they couldn't get rid of, and accidental landlords, all that kind of stuff. They don't want the property.
Yeah.
Right?
It's more trouble, and you'd love to have a house, but they wind up having one too many and too much other stuff going on, and it's a problem for them. It's a bizarre thing, but it does happen. Yep. And Bill, would it work if you're looking at the seller to keep them off a pedestal? Would it help us guys to realize all the benefits we can provide the person, like more money, or doesn't have to clean the toilets, all those things? Would it help us if we realize the benefits he's getting?
So here's the point is, when you go out and observe what sellers do, just like you're going to observe the ducks when you go duck hunting. In the beginning, all you need to do is just go out and talk to sellers, and you'll figure out after a while what's important, because you'll hear the same things from seller to seller, different words, different emotions, but they're the same things.
So when you find that out for each person, you remind yourself of that and repeat it back to the person, and keep reminding them what you're doing for them, so they're not on the pedestal. Maybe you are.
We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that in a minute. Okay, I have an easier way to do that. Naquane, and I think I'm saying your name wrong. Naquane. Anyway, sorry about that. Is asking, when using Flakebook Marketplace, should I create a business page instead of using my personal account so that I look more like a prospect instead of a suspect to sellers? So here's the thing. Your pages don't mean anything. You're in Messenger. I mean, yes, they could go to your page from Messenger and look you up. So if you want to have a business page, that's fine, but they're still going to find your personal profile because your Messenger is going to be hooked to your personal profile. I would not worry about that, because if somebody's going to not do a deal with you because of something on your personal profile, I wouldn't do business with them. Unless, of course, you're like, you're like some partying animal and all you're doing is showing on there, how you're, screwing people and, all that kind of stuff. Then I would just start a new account and just do it from there. But I don't think most people are like that. Most people are just regular people, and I wouldn't worry about that. The point is, on Marketplace, you're going to be talking to them in Messenger. And yes, Messenger, they can click on your name and go check your pages out. But unless you got, provocative stuff on there or things that you don't want your seller to see, then I wouldn't worry about it. But I don't do a business page. I don't do anything. Matter of fact, I've got a couple business pages. The only business page that we use lately is Flipping Houses for Rookies. And that's for the training stuff. All my We Buy House stuff, we never use it. So I hope I answered your question. If not, just send it back in and I'll readdress it. Okay, so let's go back. So this will get you used to talking to sellers. The gradient after confronting talking to strangers is learning to weed out suspects and prospects. This, as far as I'm concerned, is the second most important thing. First most important thing is outflow. Second thing is knowing the difference between a prospect and a suspect and getting rid of the suspects. You'll whack them, as Ron LeGrand says. You'll whack them. Get rid of them, right? Then, once you feel good and start to master the weed out part, you will start to hone in on how to locate and focus on what is the thrust pushing the seller to keep moving forward, which is the motivation. So there's something, invisible, like pushing them, like a kid's in a school line, and the girl's pushing the boy or the boy's pushing the girl from behind. Come on, let's go. And they keep pushing them. That's what you should be looking for. Like, who's pushing them? Why are they getting pushed? Well, what's going on here, right? Mm-hmm. Once you figure that out, you will pour an exceptional seller customer service onto the seller. Just pour on exceptional customer service. And all you're going to do is you're going to help the seller get what they want, whether it makes you a deal or not. Just help them with that. Because whatever it is that's the problem, they aren't confronting it. They aren't looking at it. They're not doing anything. I got a news flash for everybody listening to me right now. Problems are removed by doing something. Most problems are in people's heads. I go through this with my wife. She'll talk over and over and Peter, you know this. I'm not making fun of my wife. It's just how she is. You know this. You knew my wife before I knew my wife, right? You know her longer than I do. You used to work with her, right? You know my wife. She builds up in her head the problem, and talks about it. And my wife can talk more than me, and I can talk a lot, right? Until something is done in the physical universe and actually some motion happens, the problem will never go away. So just much like my wife that will go rehash it and get this mental mass in her mind, like, oh my God, it's this big, huge thing, right? And it's not. And sometimes in 5 minutes, you could do something in the physical universe, like make a phone call or call the credit card company or, go to the grocery store or, whatever it may be, drop the car off at the mechanics or whatever. Make an appointment, something, call the dentist or whatever it may be, right? Once you do that, it starts to unravel the solution, which, by the way, definition of solution or definition thereof is problem goes away. The only way you could do that is to do something. So here's my point. A seller is like this. A seller has this mental mass, like I can't find a renter, I hate finding renters, or this is such a pain in the ass. You know, I'm working, I don't have time for this, whatever it may be. I hate doing this part.
Yeah.
Is mostly what it is. That's mental mass in their head. It's being held there because of lack of doing something. So now you come along and you say, I'll do that for you.
Yeah, they don't like doing it. That's the problem, right? They just don't like doing that. And if they don't, that's fine. Don't be in the business. Or that's why you say accidental landlord and all that other stuff. They just don't want to do it. Everybody has things don't want to do. So I do the things I'm willing to do. You do the things you're willing to do. Get somebody to do the other parts. But they got something they don't want to do. And
so you actually...
You're willing to do it because you want the money.
Well, not even that you want the money. In the beginning, everybody that I talk to, they want the money. That's bullshit. That's pure 100% crap. Knock it off. Stop telling yourself that. Because what you really want is you want the experience and the education for free. That's what you want. So this is how you do it. Yeah, you go get an education experience. Go do it for free. You talk to a seller. You don't need to buy my coaching. You don't need to buy my courses. You don't need to buy anything at all. Just get on Flakebook. Do what I'm telling you. Go out and talk to a few customers, 4, 5, 6 customers, and at least know where your weaknesses and where your strengths are. And all you're going to do is go out and say to the seller, what can I do to help you? You're going to become their assistant. Why would you want to do that for free? It's not for free. You're saving $30,000, $50,000, $60,000 in coaching from a lot of gurus.
I'm just say that's true. All the stuff that I've done, wow, it's so valuable. I mean, the money what you're learning and the money you're not wasting. Because how many people do you know that spent the money and still can't do the process?
They come to me and I got to show them how to do it because I make them get in the house and talk to sellers.
Yeah. And you can't study your way out of that. I hate to tell you. You know, there's people who have stage fright. They don't want to go on a stage. You can't practice your way out of that. Just get on the damn stage. Just go.
So pour on exceptional seller customer service by helping the seller get what they want, whether it makes you a deal or not. Now, check this out, Peter. This is the best rapport building ever. And you need to know this. Time changes everything. Time changes everything, which means some of those whom you help will come back and want you to do the deal with you anyways because they couldn't overcome it or their plan didn't execute the way they thought it was going to, and a percentage of them are going to come back and say, can you do it? And at that point, they will practically tell you how to structure their deal, and you just need to do it. Outflow is the magic. If you do this enough times and fill your funnel on the weekend, you do this 3 weekends a month. Take one weekend off and go party and go to the park and go fishing and smoke cigars or go to the family or go with your spouse or boyfriend. One weekend, have fun. Don't burn yourself out. 3 weekends in a month, do this. Okay. You do enough outflow and contact enough sellers, this will turn into going to someone's house, right? And looking at the house and watching and observing the seller. And you'll naturally go through that gradient that I'm talking about, the steps that will naturally suck you through the sequence. Now we're not pushing you through the sequence like if I coached you. Now it's the deals will suck you through the sequence by pure, you need to do it. Otherwise, you won't get the deal. Right? So, I'm sorry, I was paying attention to Desiree. She said, like on our coaching call, I'm not sure what she was talking about there. So what happens is you start observing these sellers and you start observing these deals, and that'll turn into someone's house. You're looking at someone's house and someone will say yes.
Yep.
Right. So if you get out and look at, we'll say 1 or 2 houses a weekend, after a few weekends, maybe 5 weekends or 2 or 3, depending on, how well you did on the pre-qualifying or on the weeding out part of the prospects and suspects, somebody should say yes. So it should yield in a deal in 4 to 6 weeks if you do this, what I'm talking about. It's just volume. It's not, it's like we talk about all the time, it's quantity, then quality, and then viability. What we're talking about here is just the quantity first. Don't worry about the quality. Don't worry about what you're saying. Just worry about the quantity first. Just go do a lot of it at first. And by virtue of, you're not going to want to keep wanting to do a lot of it, you're going to get better quality at talking to people. You're going to get better quality leads, better quality conversations, better quality closes. In the beginning, don't worry about quality. That's the out sequence. The out sequence is too many people are worried about the quality before the volume. Just do the volume, the quantity first.
Well, if you're doing a volume, you'll stumble on somebody who'll do a deal, even if you do a crappy job. So, the training you talk about or the experience you talk about just makes it better ratios, but just by dumb luck. I mean, I did a couple dumb luck. I did. I was really lucky. It wasn't 200 calls. I just got dumb luck, and the guy said yes to everything. So they're there. You say to people sometimes, find a motivated seller. It's not make a motivated seller. It's not twist somebody's arm. It's find them.
Yeah.
They're there.
Yeah. All right. So how do you start accumulating money now, money monthly, and money later deals that will pile up to enough so you can fire your boss?
That's a good one.
All right. So John says, yup, you'll be nervous, but practice is great. That's right, John. Practice will get rid of the nervousness. Okay. So how do you start to accumulate the money now, money monthly, money later deals that will pile up to enough so you can fire your boss? Okay, so far what we've been talking about is you find a seller, you find a buyer, and you matchmake them, and you don't stay in the deal. You just get your finder's fee, if you would.
Right.
And all you're going to do is assign that to the deal. I'm sorry, you're going to assign that to your buyer. So you're going to make your 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 just to get started. You don't stay in the deal. You don't have to do any landlord. You don't have to do anything. All you do is just stay in the deal. Okay. I mean, just assign the deal.
Well, that way you don't have to worry about all that other stuff.
Right.
Just get through like these few steps to match make, get some money, and then go from there. That's plenty to do. That's enough.
Right. So it's actually really simple if you fully understand this one main fundamental. If the seller is willing to sign an option agreement for a 15% discount of market value or more, and let you have 20 to 25% worth of monthly cash flow, you stay in the deal. So everything we were talking about in the podcast prior to now, we don't stay in the deal. All we do is the transaction, much like a realtor would do, which, by the way, we don't need to have a license because when we sign an option agreement, we have an equity share in the property, and the law says we don't need a license to do that. But we operate the same way. We still get a fee for doing the transaction. We just don't need a license because we're going to find the seller, we're going to find the buyer, we're going to match make them, do the paperwork, and get paid for it. We don't stay in the deal. Now we're talking about staying in the deal. The only time we stay in the deal is when we can get 15% or more cash flow. I'm sorry, 15% or more of a discount or equity. Okay. And we can get 20 or 25% cash flow. Right. So now you don't assign the option to your buyer. You would stay in the deal if you're going to get 15% discount and 20 or 25% worth of cash flow. You get money now from the deposit or non-refundable option deposit from your buyer, right?
Yeah.
And you minus the amount you need to give your seller.
In what, the deposit or the cash flow?
And the deposit.
Oh, yeah. If he wants, if he wants.
So what people worry about is if you get to the fourth step, because there's 4 steps. Remember, we negotiate price, and we settle on the term. We settle on price, the monthly amount. Then we settle on the term, and then the deposit. So I teach don't give a deposit, but people are going to want a deposit. So here's the magic of giving a deposit. Can you get it from your buyer? If it's a $200,000 house, right? And they're going to put $10,000 down. I'm sorry, yeah, $10,000 down, which is 5%. And your seller's asking $15,000 for a deposit, then it's not likely you're going to find that person.
Right.
But maybe they want 2 months worth of security with a $1,500 a month payment, so you got to put down $3,000. So you tell your seller, when I find my buyer and they give me a deposit, I will pay you the $3,000. So now you get $10,000 from your buyer. You take $3,000 of it, give it to your seller when you do all the paperwork, and you keep $7,000. But you're out of the deal. You don't have to keep that. You can go spend that $7,000 because you don't need to keep it for reserves if they don't pay or any of that kind of stuff. You get to keep that money, right?
Yeah, that's when you're not staying in the deal.
Right. But now what we're doing is we're staying in the deal, because now what happens is we don't have to give, anyway. So I'm just saying you get money now from the deposit or non-refundable option deposit your buyer gave you minus the amount you need to give your seller. Okay. Then the monthly is the difference between what you pay the seller and you collect from the buyer on a monthly basis. So if you're paying $1,100 a month and you're collecting $1,400 a month, you have $300 a month positive cash flow.
Right.
Okay. The money later is the difference between the 15% or more, if you get a better discount, right, when you bought, to the 5 or 10% over market value that you sell for. So let's say you get a 15% discount, right? So let's say you sign an option agreement for a $200,000 house for $170,
right,
which is 15% discount. Right? Then you go sell the property for $220, which is 10% over market value. And the reason why you do that, because if you were to buy my computer today for $1,000 and pay me $1,000 in cash, you paid $1,000. But if you swiped your credit card and paid it over the course of 24 months, you're paying more than $1,000. So people that can't get a house today or get money to borrow a house or can't get a loan for a house will pay more because they're making monthly payments. And they already know that. It's built into the American dream. It's already there. You don't have to do nothing. All you have to do is just do what I'm telling you, because they won't question it. Nobody will ever bring this up. Well, and if somebody says to you, I don't want to pay $220, you say, how much you want to pay? They'll say $200,000. You just say to them, oh, okay, you're going to go get a loan and we're going to close in 30 days. They'll say no. Then you say, well, then it's $220.
Yeah.
It's just that simple.
Yeah. It's not even being mean to them. They can't buy a house any other way right now.
Right.
And it's better in the long run that they do this and rent forever.
Yep. So they're just throwing their money away. At least this way here, they're going to get something.
They're in a bit of a pickle, and we gave them a solution. They can't get out of a pickle for free. They got to pay something. So it's a deal. It's not a bad thing. No one complains about it. They understand.
Never do.
No.
So here's what I'm saying. So a $200,000 house, 15% discount. You sign an agreement, an option agreement with your seller for $170.
Yeah.
Then you turn around and you sell to your buyer for $220, which is 5% or 10%. It's 10% above the market value. That puts a $50,000 spread in there.
Yeah.
You see how it works? So you got let's say $7,000 in the front, right? We'll say $300 or say $400 a month positive cash flow, which is $5,000 a year.
Yep.
For 3 years is $15,000. So now you got $7,000 to begin with, plus $15,000 is $22,000. Plus you got $50,000 in the back end. That's $77,000 to do what I'm telling you to do on this podcast. And if you think that it's too difficult, or you got to have special words, or you have to be me to do this, you are wrong. Just listen to this podcast 100 times, and you will soon get the realization that you can do this. $77,000, Peter.
Yeah.
For listening to this podcast. And this is common. This is easy peasy. This is only you getting outside of your head and stop listening to you. Stop listening to your own advice. Listen to my advice instead and just go prove me wrong. Go out there and do it and prove me wrong. And you won't do it. Right?
Yep.
Money later, then, if you're doing what I say, you buy it at 15% discount and you add 10% to the seller is a 25% profit. Okay?
It's so wild when you add it up like that because you when you start like, well, you make $5,000 or $7,000. It doesn't sound like a lot. Oh, then you make $300 a month. Well, it doesn't sound like a lot. Yeah, but this isn't do some work and get a big fat paycheck on Saturday morning, Thursday morning. Yep. This is a business where this thing goes on for a couple of years and grows, but you don't wait. You do another deal when you get this one going. Then you add 2 to the pile, right?
Yeah. And
because you asked a question and you haven't answered it, right? How many of these, or how do you get to the point where you can fire your boss? But it's somewhere along the line. It's
different for everybody. So in my world, I flipped for, we'll say 18 years. And then a couple of years ago, my wife got cancer and it changed my life because I was constantly flipping properties. In fact, I was on a coaching call the other day with one of our coaches, and I brought this up because I made good money. I always make good money. Doing what I'm telling you guys to do. And I didn't spend enough time listening to Ron DeGran and say that, because he did it later after he went down a couple times with commercial property. Yeah. He really focused on this. But you don't think of the passive cash flow. Nowadays, I go into deals not wanting to sell them.
Yeah.
I don't want to do a rent to own on my properties because the rent to own means in a couple of years they go away and you lose that cash flow. I got a house right now, that house in Clinton, I'm going to start working on. I got a $125,000 mortgage on it, and I'm making $1,000 a month off of this thing, and I got $90,000 in the back end. I don't even want the $90,000 because then I got to go find another deal to use the $90,000. I'd rather the $90,000 is making $1,000 a month right now. Why would I want to? How much better am I going to get than that? 90,000 is making 12,000 a year. What's the percentage on that? I never did that. 12,000 divided by 90,000. 14%. Where am I getting that?
Yeah.
Right? So that's all I'm saying. Well, off topic. None of this stuff we're talking about today is risky either. A good option agreement will allow you to walk away when you want. So in the beginning, I told you go Google option agreement or lease agreement, and you'll find free ones. This is where my documents come in a little bit better because this stuff is definitely in those documents, and it makes it so it's a lot easier for you to back out. Some of those other, I don't know what you're going to find. I don't know what's out there, but those are one of the things that I've definitely tweaked really good is the weasel clauses. So my documents are really good with that. Plus, here's the thing. Here's the most amazing. To me, Peter, everything that I've talked about is probably pretty amazing for our listeners, right?
Mm-hmm.
To me, this is the most amazing part of this podcast. This, to me personally, is the most important, most beneficial thing that I can say in this entire podcast and many others. This is better than a lease option. Okay?
I'm listening. Better than a lease option.
You can assign these deals anytime you want.
Oh.
You're not stuck with a deal. This is not like you buy a house, have a closing, deeds in your name, you're stuck. If you get a little bit, any point of this process, you get a little bit nervous, you just have one document that says an assignment and you assign the deal to another investor or somebody else and you're done. It's a stroke of a pen. Like in 5 minutes, you're off the problem.
And he gives you a couple of bucks for doing it.
And they'll pay you to do it. $2,000, $5,000, $30,000, whatever, depending on the deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could do this at the beginning of the deal. You could do this in the middle of the deal. You could do this at the end of the deal. Let's say you were to stay into a lease option and you're collecting money, that $400 a month, and something changes in your life and you got to move, or, I don't know, somebody passes away or you got divorced or I don't know, God knows what can happen. And you're like, I really don't want to do that anymore. Just go on Flakebook or go into any RIA or go on Bigger Pockets, go anywhere, go to my site and send me an email, send me a support ticket anywhere and say, I got this deal. I don't want it anymore. I want to assign it. And here's how much I want for the assignment fee. And you're done. You're done. Your tenant will start paying the new person. And like within a week, once you find someone, within a couple days, once you find someone, you sign some documents, it's over. How much risk-free is that?
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you want, you can change your mind and say, oh, I don't want to do this deal anymore. With an assignment.
Yeah.
One magical little piece of paper. And you no longer have the responsibility. That, my friend, is what I call no risk. And all for $100 deposit. You put up $100 to do all of this. And you could do this for $10, you could do it for $1, you could do it for $1,000. $100 to me is a professional number. I like $100 because it's the best. It's most affordable and it's the best, right?
Yeah, but don't forget, we get to call you $100 bill then.
That's right. Peter.
Yeah.
And you know this because I say it every freaking day just about. If you don't put money into a deal, you can't lose any money.
Yeah.
Real estate is made for the education, the educated investor. Real estate is made to take money out, not put money in.
Mm.
So if you don't put money in, you can't lose any money. I can't stress enough, if you just talk to enough sellers, sooner or later you will find a motivated, not desperate, a motivated seller. And once you find a motivated seller, they don't care about your lack of education, the mistakes you make, your questions, or even you telling them you don't know and have to figure it out. They don't care.
Well, if they have a hope that you can fix their problem, what do they care? What do they got to lose?
That's right. That's
They'll
right.
They'll give you a few weeks. And if you can't, then it's over anyways. But if you present yourself as someone who could fulfill their problem and solve the problem, why wouldn't they let you give it a shot?
I don't know.
You can put one foot in your mouth, just don't put two. 1 foot is enough, and then just keep going.
Here, my friend, is how I am going to go out of 2020 with a bang.
Yeah.
So, Merry Christmas to you and all my listeners. And I mean that. This is a Christmas gift of magnitude. This is a Christmas gift of extreme value. So please listen carefully. I'm not even joking around, Peter.
Bill, this isn't my Christmas gift, is it?
No. I have a Christmas gift for you that when I see you, which we need to talk about that, okay. You are going to flaunt it and brag it on podcasts and events everywhere you go. This is a Peter gift if I ever saw it. And I bought it a while ago. It's been here for a while. Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
This was not some willy-nilly thing. This was very carefully planned and orchestrated.
So what's your gift to us, Bill?
Why almost every newbie tries to learn everything it takes for someone like me years to learn before talking to a seller. Why do they do that? I'll tell you why. Newbies are not fully seasoned investors, which I think I am not fully seasoned investor. I really do believe that. I think I always have something to learn. Mm-hmm. Okay. Newbies are not fully seasoned investors, think they need to know everything and close deals in their first and only visit.
Mm-hmm.
So they feel all the experience and knowledge needs to be condensed into a 60 or 90-minute visit with their seller. And they need to close them. And they need to have all the answers. And they feel like they'll be embarrassed or they'll look bad and blow a deal if they don't have all these answers they've been studying sometimes for years for, because they're afraid that the seller might ask them something they don't know.
Yeah.
It'll be what they consider a shot to their ego. That's what I say. What the newbie thinks is they'll lose a deal because of it. I better prepare. Okay. This is not like NFL where you have a play and if you blow it, you lose the game. Right? This is not like a batter up in a national baseball game, and if you swing and don't hit the ball, you blow the game. It's not like that. This is real estate. We have a lot of flexibility. It's a complete, absolute, utter myth that you believe this. And it's holding you back. It's stopping you from being wealthy and changing your life for an incredible future. This one thing, this one belief, this one myth. Why not do the first visit as the discovery period? As we've been talking about. Find out what the seller needs and wants at this visit. No special one-liners, no trick talk, no salesmanship, just being human and going at it from the standpoint that you want to be the best customer service representative ever in your neighborhood or in your backyard. Just by asking the seller what they need. Now, here's the amazing part. When you talk to the seller, they're going to tell you all the things that they want or they feel like it's holding them back from the sale of the house, especially if you ask things like, what would have to happen for me to buy your house today? They're going to tell you. You write all those things down, whether there's 1 or 10 of them, you write them down. Before you leave the house, you repeat it back to them in the way you wrote it down. In other words, it should be verbatim, the way they said it. Okay, even if it's an old Italian with a heavy slang, write it that way. Okay, seriously, write it verbatim. Okay, repeat it back to them so that you know it's correct. And I do it like this. So let me see if I get this straight, Peter. If I give you $10,000 in cash or in a check at the closing, you let me take over your mortgage payments and you'll walk away.
Yep.
Or you'll say, no, I didn't agree to that.
Right.
But either way, by repeating it to them, you know. Okay.
I think
right, John.
Do that.
John said very, very true, because John obviously listens to he watches my emails, because this was in an email. If they say no, ask them why not.
Yeah. No is a terrible response. It's my least favorite. A lot of people know.
It's my favorite response.
Well, that's how you find out what's going on.
My favorite response when they say no and you ask them, just like John said, which is we're totally sidetracked here, is why not? What they're going to do is they're going to tell you their obstacles or their objections, which means you missed that in your presentation or your proposal. And they're saying to you, I still want to do this deal if you could just fix these things. No's are awesome, right? So you're going to list these things that they want, these things that they feel like are obstacles. Like, for example, I don't want to take monthly payments. Okay, so you want all cash. Yeah, how much? Right? Then you're going to write it down, read it back to them, and verify that you got it correct. Here's the amazing part, right? Tell them you'll be back in a few days with how you can help them. They will respect you more for doing this than having canned or fake answers all in one visit. Okay, I'm going to sidetrack one more minute here. My mother, I was on the phone with my mother the other way, right? She made some comment about something on TV, like the news or something like that. So I said to her, I said, Mom, what is the purpose of TV? So it gets down to entertaining you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So who are those people that you're watching on TV? What do you call them? What do you call those people on TV? She said, actors. Bing. Bingo. So how do they become an opinion leader? They're paid to act. That's like these politicians when Biden was running for his campaign. They're saying how they support Biden. Why would I listen to that guy? He's a paid actor. He gets paid to say lines emotionally correct on TV, so I believe him. It's an actor.
It's like those drug advertisements. Everybody's smiling, and it says, these are paid actors. Oh, I feel so much better with. And it says they're paid actors. They're lying. It's not true.
Don't be the paid actor in your seller's eyes. Don't fake it. Don't give canned responses, because when you're trying to do everything in 60 or 90 minutes in the beginning, that's what it looks like to them. Don't be a paid actor. Right? Be sincere. Ask questions. Do a two-way communication. Be involved. Stop worrying about what the next question you're going to ask. Let it naturally flow. Worst case scenario is if you're doing what I'm telling you, it doesn't go very well, and you leave the house and you got 10 more people you're talking to, you make another appointment. No big deal till you get it right.
But everything you do, you can learn something from it. And that's what I've had to do, so I don't feel disappointed and I can't do this, it's not going to work. Just take what you can from anything that seems to fail. Just learn one thing from it, and you're one step ahead and move on.
That's exactly right.
Just go on. Don't be a baby about it. Just learn something and move on.
True. So you call that falling forward.
Yeah, if you're a musician or an athlete, you know this, because you're going to fall on your face. You're going to hit a wrong note. You're gonna honk like an idiot, and then you just keep going until you get it better. We can do stop.
Exactly.
Keep going.
So here's what you do when you're in the house. You write down everything you hear. You work them out so when you leave, you now have everything written down. And if you're clever, you'll record your conversation so you can listen to it. And you don't need to tell them you're recording it, because it's just for, you do what you want on that part. I don't tell them. I just use it myself. I don't sell this stuff, right? Write down what they said or listen to the recording. Now you have time in your mind to work it out. You don't need to have that instant flash answer that you've been studying 2 years to try to figure out. So you know everything there is to know, so you could give that instant flash answer and satisfy the seller. It's not going to happen. It took me 20 years and thousands and thousands of these deal proposals to be able to do that for me. So if it took me that long, why would you be any different that it wouldn't take you that long? Do you think that a doctor operates his first time and he's that successful? Of course there's mistakes. Right? I mean,
yeah, that's why you always look for the surgeon with the gray hair.
Yeah, exactly. So write down what they say. Now you have time to work them out in your mind. Right? Write them down. Get some answers. Search around. Let your mind mull over this for a day or two. Now you go back with the answer and propose the solution to your seller. And they will respect you for that. Nowadays, with skepticism the way it is, you're better off to do this.
Way more believable.
And if you do as we've explained here today, deals will fall on you like a summer rain shower. No kidding. If you do this every other weekend or every weekend, you do the customer service like we're talking about, you do everything that we talked about today, there is no reason why you can't do this. None. Other than whatever you're telling yourself. Whatever myth you have in your head is not. Remember what I told you. Definition of a solution, this problem goes away. So if you're telling yourself blah, 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 and the problem doesn't go away, you probably didn't get it right, because the problem didn't go away.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's right.
So if you're telling yourself, I need to make $3,000 and you don't have $3,000, every solution you propose to yourself was incorrect because you don't have the $3,000. End of story. All right, Peter, the end. In other words, the end. The end. Thank you, Stephen. Stephen says, love this one, Bill. You're welcome, Stephen. Merry Christmas. He says, hi from Florida. Yay, Florida.
Nice. Hope it's warm.
Yeah, yeah. It wasn't last week. Peter, I want to say thank you for you. That was a lift, Desiree said. Great gift. I want to say to you, more than anybody else, I can't thank you enough for being here week after week with me on these podcasts. You get nothing for these other than, like you said, your education, which is a lot. Okay. Steven says it's 81 degrees in Florida today. Yeah. We're kicking him off the podcast now.
My car's full of gas.
Yeah, my car's full of gas. There you go. We're on our way. Car's full of gas, and the compass said southbound.
For 3 days, I can get there.
Anyways, what was I going to say? Thank you very much for being here week after week, helping me help our listeners. I want to say thank you for all of our listeners for all the support they did this year, all the support tickets, all the things that they bought on the website, all the meetups, all the internships, the webinars, it's just, I am so appreciative of that. They're still sending in tickets here. Come on down. I got eggnog, Steve Peter says. What's in the eggnog? That's what we want to know.
I brought the rum from the other house for the eggnog.
There we go.
The St. Croix rum.
I want to just say thank you for a wonderful year. I know the coronavirus was here. I know a lot of people might have got sick. I don't want to insult anybody or anything like that, but I do want to say that it changed my life. It definitely made my business better. It made me learn how I can help you guys better. I make a lion's share of my dough flipping houses. Peter, you know that because you're part of those deals with me. I write those checks to you. You write checks to me. Yeah. We swap money around. You know that's for real. I make a lion's share of my money from real estate, and I do this. I make money. Don't get me wrong, but it's just an exchange for my time. It by no means supersedes my real estate. Okay, so I'm here because I'm passionate about helping people. And much like Henry Ford said many years ago, every American should have the ability to own their own car. It's not just for the elite. And I feel that way about real estate. Every American that wants to make extra dough from real estate should be able to do that. And not be the elite and have special privileges or a special pass or a secret knock on the door. It doesn't need to be that way. And that's my passion. So I want to say very Merry Christmas. This is the last podcast of 2020. And we are over and out, and enjoy your holidays. And if you're listening to this after the holidays and a later podcast, I hope you had a fantastic Christmas. And please, please, please do as we say. Go in the comment section of this, wherever you found us. There's a link there for free stuff. Go get some free stuff. Get on my website. Send in a support ticket if you have questions. I am here to help. I do it every single day. And there's no better gift for me than hearing a student do a deal. There's no better gift than that. And
from me, on behalf of all the other rookies and rookettes, thank you to you, because Bill works hard on this. He doesn't just sit here and blab. He spends an hour or two just preparing for this, writing what he wants to say to keep it organized. And it still goes an hour and a half. Yeah. But, it's helped me tremendously just to be here and to be with you. It's a great honor for me. Other rookies have come and gone. I'm still here. Yep. Exactly. So, folks, right. Let's say thanks to Bill. Everybody send him just a Merry Christmas. Send him a Merry Christmas email. Just send it.
I get it. I'm thankful I found you guys. Thanks for the knowledge. I appreciate it. You got it. So send a support ticket, whatever you want to do. All right, Peter, we're 44 minutes over our regular stuff. So we're over and out. Thank you again. Merry Christmas to everybody. We'll talk next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.